Hey curators, welcome back for another episode of the Yarn Curator Knitting and Spinning podcast. My name is Naomi and welcome to my channel where we talk about knitting and spinning, obviously as the channel name kind of implies. It's been about 2 months, I'm back on my bullshit. I'm ready to talk about making things out of yarn with you guys and sometimes making yarn, but I'm not going to bring out my spinning that I've been working on because it's just the same gray rambouillet spin that I've been working on for like a year now, and it's a pound of fiber and I'm slowly making my way through it. Puppyhood has been a challenge in terms of spinning, so slowly introduced him to the e-wheel a couple weeks ago. He was not a fan. So yeah, I apologize if you hear background noise at the moment. Literally I sat down to record and my neighbor's lawn service started mowing. Like I was literally about to hit record and I heard and I was like, what the heck is that? And the dog, who is currently in a drug-induced state, even woke up and was like, what the heck is that? You might be asking, why is the dog in a drug-induced state? Well, he just got his big snip the other day, so that would be about 4 days ago now. It's Thursday. And since he's kind of a more high energy breed, they have him on a pretty significant amount of painkillers, and that's supposed to help keep him nice and mellow. And I think part of why they upped his medication is on night 2, he slipped his cone off, went to town on his incision area, had to go back to the vet yesterday, got it resealed. Now he's on 2 kinds of antibiotics and a whole lot of painkillers. So if you hear him bark, he should be pretty mellow. He's just laying on the couch right now in his cone of shame. So I wonder if I could, no, focus, Naomi. So anyways, he might come over here. I doubt he will. So it has been, like I said, roughly 2 months since the last time I sat down to record. In my last episode, I did announce that I would be doing a giveaway because my channel finally went over 1,000 subscribers. Yay! I still can't believe that's the case. I started this channel a little over, I think 3 years ago now. Might even be 4. Yeah, it's crazy to watch it grow. I love all of the friendships I have made out of this, and I want to say I would say probably like 5 to 10 people I would genuinely consider friends via the YouTube KnitTube community. And like one day I would love to meet you guys in real life. You know who you are. Maybe one day. But yeah, it's crazy to think that through the internet, the interconnectedness of the web, we're able to build relationships, which is really cool. And I think this community is really cool in that it can be toxic, but it is not a toxic space for the most part. People really are connecting over the love of a shared hobby, and then senses of humor and whatever other niche interests you might have, like superheroes or gymnastics or car culture. It's really neat. Which most of those I am not, well, some of those I'm into, some of them I'm not. Mainly the superhero part. I know I'm an odd millennial and that I did not get into all of the comic book movies. Don't hate me. Anyways, since it has been so long and since I did announce that giveaway, I did random number generator, not number generator, I did like a random comment picker thingy majiggy online, and I did pick a winner. I'm going to put the screenshot on here. I believe, if I'm remembering from Monday correctly, it was Jen Wheeler. So congratulations, Jen. Reach out to me either on Instagram, Ravelry. You can shoot me an email at yarncurator@gmail.com, and I would be happy to put that prize package into the mail for you. With that, I think that takes care of admin-y type stuff. And yeah, we'll jump right in because I've got quite a bit of shit to talk about, and who knows how long this battery and or the memory card is going to last. So yeah, let's dive right into what I've been working on. I have one of them doesn't really count as a finished object. You'll see why in a little bit. But I have 3 finished objects and then I think 2 whips. At least I couldn't rack my brain for any other whips lingering around the house, so we're gonna go with that. Y'all, it is hotter than Satan's ass crack here in Florida right now. Like, yeah, it's so hot. I have already started drinking, like, I think I've already drank 2 or 3 Pedialites this summer because it gets so stinking hot, and I get so dehydrated because it just literally your body like sweats buckets. And at work I've been working well, half of our ACs are broken. That's part of the problem, but the other half of the problem is one of the primary buildings that I'm working in right now. The space I'm working in is an old garage, like a mechanic's garage, and that does not have air conditioning. And do you know, and we're emptying it. It had a hazardous spill that has since been remediated, but it presented itself as an opportunity to inventory and refresh the space. So we've been pulling everything out of it because it's not cataloged. If you're a new viewer, I'm a museum curator and I work in a 21-acre park with 30 historic structures, so every day is a little bit different. So I guess we're jumping into life before. Anyways, nothing in there had really been cataloged, maybe like 50 or so things in the past. And the last record of an inventory I could find was from like the mid-90s. It literally looked like it had been typed on a typewriter. And so, yeah, this is an opportunity to go through, catalog those found in collections pieces. And then the building itself, the roof has had some leak issues over the last few years that we've got to patch, but it's slated for a new roof. But anyways, due to that leakage, there is some wood rot in the building. And so this is an opportunity to address that rot, fresh coat of paint. Due to the hazardous spill that was within the building, we had to remove about 69 of these hexagonal concrete tiles that were the floor. So we're working on sourcing flooring, and then we get to put it all back together. And previously it had 2 antique historic Ford Model A vehicles. One's a truck and one's a coupe. We recently received a donation of a 3rd Model A, like a convertible top one from 1928. Really cool history. It's from one of the very early families, and he was a prominent citrus grower in the area. Anyway, so we have his car along with photos of them driving the car around this area, which is really, really cool. So we're going to put that in the garage as well to display it. But all of that means is like thousands of things have been pulled out and now are being cataloged and cleaned. And it's going to be nice when it's done, but working like 2 days a week in a hot ass building with no AC, schlepping heavy car parts across acreage, it's not been fun. It's not been cute. And your girl's been sweating her bum off. If only some of that was like her actual bum sweating off. So anyways, let's let's jump into finished objects. The first one is I did finish my Bennett sister shawl, and I knit mine out of Cosmic Strings Dye Works. I believe the colorway name was Afternoon Treats or Afternoon Tea. And you use 2 skeins, and then on the second half of the shawl you hold it with a mohair, lace weight mohair. I ended up holding mine with an undyed skein of St. Orkney's Angora in their 4-ply or fingering weight because I had it left over from another project, and I am doing really good about knitting from stash over the last 1.5 years or so, and so it is what worked together in my stash. So there are some things in my stash that I have set aside in my mind for very specific projects, but there are other rando skeins that I don't really have a plan for in my head. It's kind of an amorphous shape what they'll be used for, and so as I've either test knit or been like, oh my gosh, I really want to make that, I've been just pulling skeins from my stash, and sometimes it's like, this will work because I have the right amount of yardage for this project to complete it. And so that is how I have been doing some of my decision making for what I've been making lately. But anyways, I really enjoyed knitting this shawl. It was kind of my mindless knit in the evenings when I would come home after working in the hot garage. This would be like what I needed to just sit in front of the TV, post work, post workout, post dog walk. This is what did it. And so yeah, one of the things I really like about this shawl is, since it is knit from end to end versus being a top-down construction, is that it's a really clever play on the direction of the stitches. So as you can see here, this half is garter stitch, and as it would normally read in most knitting, it would be running horizontally, you know, like this. But since you're knitting end to end, it's running vertically. And then it has this stockinette stitch section down here. I'm not sure how well that'll come through on the camera, but it's the same thing. Normally when you look at stockinette, it's running vertically, but since it's being knit side to side, you're now getting that going horizontally. So that play on traditional stitch motifs, and just, it's not really tricking the eye, but it's so different from what you're used to normally looking at, that I really like that play on the normalcy of two very simple stitches. And so that stockinette section comes up in a V. It tapers up here. So that is really nice. I haven't obviously woven in my ends yet, and I haven't made the tassels for this, but I'll do that one night in the evening, once again when I'm brain dead and just need something really easy to work on. I did, however, run out of this Angora at the end, and rather than going out and buying a full skein of yarn and trying to find this yarn that I got at a very small LYS when we were on vacation a few years ago, just grabbed some off-white fingering weight woolen spun yarn. This is Biche's Ebouches, and the hey buddy, someone just plopped down on the couch next to me. I'll try and put a picture in of him. And they're kind of off-white colors, so it's a little different. I don't think, since it's such a small segment of the shawl, I don't think it makes a huge difference. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the way this turned out. I love this shawl. I loved knitting it. All right, we're live again. I recently was gifted this camera that I am using, which is great because it allows me to view what's going on my phone. But after every like 15 minutes or so, it just cuts off recording. So I just went on a whole tangent before getting cut off by the camera, and I think that is a sign from the universe that I don't need to repeat that. So next up is a project that I just finished in the end of July. This is the Fields of Gold sweater by Bella of the 100 Acre Wool podcast. So I knit mine out of some very local yarn. This is from Creativity, which is a local yarn shop just like a mile down the road from my house, and has recently changed ownership. But the owner prior to the current one, she raised alpacas and had a mill in Central Florida process her fleeces into yarn for the shop. So this is their shop yarn. And when Alicia announced that she was retiring, I knew I wanted to get something special from the shop because it was looking like it was going to close before they found new ownership. So I got 5 skeins of this gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous Caribbean blue alpaca, and then it is speckled with sari silk, so it's got dark blues and some greens and some deep violets as well, and it is just the most delicious, soft, squishy, scrumptious, scrumdiddlyumptious yarn. And yeah, I absolutely loved working on it. I actually had the Dust of Snow, either the wrap or sweater by Stephen West in mind for this. But as I said earlier, I'm really trying to pull things from my stash and use those. I might have said it in my rant that just got cut off. So editing, Naomi, do your thing. Anyways, this was like the only sweater's quantity of the appropriate weight in my stash for this sweater. And she knits hers out of a unspun yarn, so like a blown single ply that's really loosely, it's milled, but it's like a sliver that you get for roving. And I do think that this stitch motif does look better in the unspun yarn versus, or a single ply yarn versus the applied yarn. So as you can see, it's just a little bit bulky, and I think my wheat look like they're drunk. Maybe they decided while they were growing to go ahead and ferment into hooch. I'm not sure. I've also been joking that because my sweater is this blue color, I'm growing blue corn and not wheat. So this is my fields of blue corn sweater. But yeah, it's got this, in all seriousness, it's got this really pretty stitch motif that goes along the sides. It's got this really pretty raglan increased detail, and I don't know how well it's coming through, but there is, I don't know if it's a cable or what, but along the side of these, they remind me of rib bones for whatever reason. So along the side of this kind of rib bone detail, there is another stitch pattern that runs along here. I have to tell you guys, this was like the most challenging project that I've worked on in a really long time. It required every single brain cell in my head. I really only worked on it on Mondays because that is my day off. Mr. Yarn Curator's at work, and it's just me and the dog in the house in beautiful, blissful serenity. But yeah, it was a really hard pattern. Like, each component itself is not necessarily that hard, but across the row there is just a lot going on. And so like keeping up with this chart and then this chart, so you keep up with this chart here, then this chart, then the center motif, which is actually, you work it like down the middle. So once you join in the round, this is the start of the round here. So you work half of this chart, then you repeat these stitch motifs around, and then you come back and work the second half of the chart. And then within this chart, you're like dipping down and making loops and picking things up and passing stitches over, and then you're working in moss stitch. And like I said, there's just a lot going on. And so it was really challenging in that nothing individually was super hard, but it was like remembering to do every component I found tough. The other problem that I encountered, and it's not a problem of the pattern, it is a problem of the knitter, is that she has video support for all of the techniques in the pattern, and they're great. And they're great if you watch the video all the way through. Your girl here watched like part of how to work a stitch, and then I was like, I got it. I'm good. I know where she's going with this. I'm good. And so yeah, that was part of my problems, because on the top half here, to make these loops, I was doing it wrong for like half of this part of the chart. The other thing that I realized is when you start this chart, you don't like overlap these loops together till a couple rows in. However, you make you go ahead and begin making 3 or 4 of those loops. You begin making a series of those loops prior to them starting to pass over each other. And so like the first 4 sets or so of loops in here, I didn't make because I didn't read the chart correctly. I did provide feedback that aspect could have stood out a little bit more on the chart through shading or something along those lines to make it a little more visible, because it was a very easy detail to overlook. So I actually went through and just manually added in some loops, and I'll fill in those ends later, but that was my solution to that problem. However, because I had forgot to work those stitches and I couldn't figure out like why the chart wasn't working, I ended up ripping back like these 5 to 7 rows, like probably 10 times. And I was like, I just can't get it. I just can't get it. I just can't get it. Well, part of it was user error, and that was a big part of it. And so yeah, I actually almost at one point thought about bowing out of this test knit because I was just so frustrated, and I was like, wow, I've been bested by a pattern, which has not happened in a very long time. But in the end, I persevered. It finally clicked around here, and yeah, I really like my blue corn sweater. I did end up shortening the chart by about 4 or 5 rows because I wanted this to be a little more cropped, and so I shortened mine and yeah, used just over 4 balls. So I cracked into my 5th skein. I might have used 10 grams. I really only needed it to do the ribbing. I need to weave that end in a little bit better. That is one thing that I have to say I'm not a huge fan of about the pattern is the beginning of round. It's smack dab in the middle of this chart. I wish it was in the back because I feel like that looks a little bulky right there, like right in the middle bottom of your sweater. So yeah, otherwise I have to say this was a really enjoyable knit. Well, it wasn't enjoyable, it was a lot of cussing. But I think the pattern is beautiful, and if you are interested in the final product, I would definitely say it is worth the challenge of learning some new skills and some new techniques. I think one of the other challenges for me was just the style of pattern writing was outside my normal comfort zone. Just like writing a paper or an article or an essay, everyone has their own style or their own voice that they write in. And so it's not necessarily right or wrong, any of those writing styles. It's just different. And so learning to read the pattern as that designer wrote it, like interpreting it through their brain. Because I mean, that is, you are essentially following their knitting process and their train of thought as they build the pattern. So learning that different thought process and reading that different style was a little bit of a challenge for me. It was just not what I'm used to. It wasn't wrong, it's just not what I'm used to. It read a little clunky in my opinion, and I think that was something a lot of testers gave feedback on so that the pattern could be more user-friendly for future knitters. But yeah, overall I'm really pleased with this. I'm really happy that it's done. I'm happy to add another knit to my wardrobe. So my next final finished object, I don't think I can really claim as a finished object, but I'm going to show it off anyways. So my mother-in-law's sister, Aunt Debbie, sent me a message. Well, she sent it via Leslie, my mother-in-law. Hey, Leslie. And she is, both of them are accomplished quilters. They're great sewists, but I don't think either has ever truly mastered the art of knitting. And so she said, hey, my sister's been working on this cowl for like 10 plus years now, but she doesn't know how to finish it. Can she just mail you the pattern, mail you the project, and will you finish it for her? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem, no big deal. So Aunt Debbie mailed me her cowl, and all it needed was a 3-needle bind off. Bing bong, your tail. So all it needed was a 3-needle bind off. As you can see, it's these really pretty browns and taupes and sage green, very autumnal colors, and it's just basically garter stitch alternating between a lot of novelty yarns. I think there's like a ribbon yarn in here, and there's some kind of eyelash yarn and a squiggly gold yarn. But all this needed was a 3-needle bind off. And Aunt Debbie, you could have done this 3-needle bind off. I get it. If you're a new knitter and you don't have someone to show you what to do, I could see reading those instructions and being intimidated. I need to sew in these ends for her. So yeah, all I did was the 3-needle bind off right here in the middle. And bada bing, bada boom, she was done. So I will be mailing this off to Aunt Debbie, and it did have a twist in it. So as you can see here, it'll kind of hang like that. And I did the other day loop it twice around my neck because I debated making it a smidge longer for her. But she cracked me up. She wrote me this very nice card, and she was like, you can keep the needles it's on, you can keep the yarn, I'm done with knitting forever. So she was funny. She also sent me their grandmother's copy of this knitting book, and so this is the Wise Handy Book of Knitting and Crochet. It's from the 1950s. It's got some really cute patterns in it. So yeah, here's the card she sent along. I think it's got some great information in it. I've looked at some vintage knitting books in the past from like the Victorian era, and so the instructions here very much remind me of that, but they've got a little bit more information like gauge and yarn weights. But I would love one day to recreate a vintage knitting pattern. Like, that looks gorgeous. But we'll see. There's a ton of things I want to make, and it's like, do I want to spend time deciphering something, or do I want to be spoon-fed a modern pattern? I will probably go spoon-feeding, but I thought that was a really nice gesture from her to send that along, little piece of family history that I get to inherit and continue on with. So that does it for finished objects. I do have 2 whips to share with you guys. One kind of falls in slightly unintentional acquisitions, and the other one is what I'll start with. It's my Tegna by Caitlin Hunter. So I had just cast this on in my last podcast episode, and I have finished knitting the body up to the point where you divide the back and the front. So I've knit the back of my sweater, I've done the short row shaping, cast off the stitches along the net line along the neckline. So now I just need to go in and pick up the front and knit that panel across, and then knit some sleeves, and bada bing, bada boom, she be done. So yeah, this is my second Tegna sweater. I talked about that in my last podcast. And this one I am knitting out of a mystery yarn. It's 100% silk, and it's from Japan, and I bought it at the guild that I'm a member of, I bought it at their annual member sale, and each skein was like $2, $3, $4. It was pretty nominal. And so yeah, I've been debating if I should cake up the second skein for the front. That way I know I will not run out of yarn and have to weave in an end across the bust area. Or do I want to see if this little bit left will go the distance? I think it will. I need to weigh it, and then I guess I can make a more informed decision from there. Let me know down below, would you risk it, or would you potentially break a perfectly good, not break, and it's such a bad way to frame it, would you dig into the second skein already knowing you have this little bit? Or yeah, tell me what you would do. What's your thought process? I would love to hear it. So yeah, I did go ahead and, as you can see here, these are the two shoulder sides, so those will be seamed together, not seamed, they'll be joined with a 3 needle bind off again. But yeah, I really love this. I really love this color. It's not quite a coral pink. It kind of looks like a sweet tart, like a candy pink, but it's got a little bit of an orange undertone to it. And yeah, I did go ahead, I know one section I went ahead and blocked. I might have blocked all, I did. I blocked the entire lace section at the bottom. I went ahead and blocked that. That way I could get a better idea for the length of the body and when I wanted to divide. Because I knew that portion would grow, not significantly, but I knew it would grow. It would really, you know, the lace would really open up and bloom. And so I went ahead and did that. That way I could measure for that armpit divide. So I would love to have this finished for when I sit down again in 2 more months to record. Hopefully it'll be sooner than that. But my next whip has kind of taken over most of my thought process lately. So while I was in the middle of test knitting my Fields of Gold sweater, I got a message on Instagram from Steph of Loop Fiber Studio asking me if I would be able to knit a sample for her, because she's getting ready to go into festival season and didn't think she would have the time to knit the sample. So she sent me 4 skeins of her Yin Yang yarn. It's this really beautiful marled yarn. So I have one, show you guys the yarn. So she sent me 3 skeins of the Everything in Its Place colorway. As you can see, it's this gorgeous kind of burgundy red, and then it is marled with this vibrant blue, and as you can see, this one is the inverse of this yarn. So it's the blue marled with the maroon, and this is also a place for everything. Oh, Everything in Its Place, a place for everything. And she asked if I would be willing and able to knit the Weekender Lite by Andrea Mowry. And so this has now turned into my relaxation knitting. So this is another bottom-up sweater. I think I'm a glutton for punishment this year in terms of knitting bottom-up sweaters. You actually cast on in the ribbing in 2 separate pieces because it is a divided hem down at the bottom. So the back hem is a little bit longer than the front, as you can see there. So yeah, and it's you knit your 2 rib sections, and then you join in the round and go, 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 go for what feels like a really long time. I've noticed how, since I'm starting to prefer cropped sweaters, how much longer like a full length, full body sweater is. So this is, you go 15 inches and then you divide like the Tegna and you work the front and the back, join at the shoulders, and then knit sleeves. So I have done about 12 and a half, 13 inches. So I am almost to that sleeve divide. It is slowly and steadily getting there, but you can just see that gorgeous pattern, and you're actually knitting this sweater inside out. So this would be, when it's done, this will be what the right side of the fabric looks like. So it's the garter, and then it has that slip stitch motif going up the front panel of the sweater. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to lint roll the heck out of this sweater before I send it back, because BB's hair is everywhere. I keep sweeping every day I sweep, and it's like gobs and gobs and gobs of white hair, just like snow from the ground wafting up. But yeah, this has been a really enjoyable, rhythmic relaxation knit. I watch it. I knit it on the weekends when we're watching F1. It's like what I stress knit through the races. And then I've been taking it to work, and when I actually like take a lunch break away from my desk and really sit, this is what I'll work on after I scarf down whatever I brought for lunch. And so yeah, like I said, it's close to being to that divide. I have found that normally for me with bottom up sweaters, the body really does like take forever, but once you do that split, it seems to really go by quickly. And then the sleeves will take a while because they're both full-length sleeves. And yeah, I think I'm going to try and knit those 2 at a time and just knock them out at once. She did request a slight modification, so this pattern is normally knit all in one color. Via a bit of miscommunication, she had originally wanted the ribbing down at the bottom in this contrast color, and then there's a rib motif up at the top, and that's going to be in the contrast color, and then the cuffs on the sleeves will also be in this contrast color. Before I cast on, we were messaging back and forth about size, etc. And I did ask her if she wanted any mods, and she did not mention that at the time. And so, unfortunately, the other night, we were messaging back and forth, and I snapped her a pic of the pattern in the progress to date, and she was like, oh my god, did I send you this picture? Which was a schematic of how she wanted the color breakdown, and I was like, no, you did not. So I may go back in and pick up along the bottom hem and cut that out, and then re-knit it in the contrast color. But for right now, we were like, you know what? It's not the end of the world. Let's just keep. I think I'd already knit like 7 inches or so of the body, and I hated to have to rip it out and start over. And so for now, we're going to leave it. I'm going to knit it with the requested modifications, and then we'll revisit the contrast hem whenever it's done. So yeah, we'll see. That might be a change coming, but for now, I just want to keep going forward progress. But yeah, this has been really enjoyable. I've been home with BB over the last few days, keeping an eye on him, and so this is mostly what I've been working on with the dog as well, because my brain, while monitoring him and keeping him away from his stitches and all of that good stuff, cannot handle much more than that. So that does it for, what I've been working on. Obviously, it's been a good smattering of projects. My parents did come to visit in June. My mom's side of the family was having a family reunion on my grandmother's side of the family. So my mom's side, specifically my maternal grandmother's side of the family, was having a big reunion back in June, And so my parents came to visit, and oh, hi buddy, big stretch. And so they did bring me a little braid of fiber from their most recent travels. I think they picked this up in Arizona or New Mexico, somewhere in the Southwest. So I've been on the green kick this year. It's this beautiful kind of scrummy green with some blue undertones, and this is 60% merino, 20% yak, and 20% silk, and the colorway is Peridot, and this is from Greenwood Fibers. And yeah, 4 ounces of roving. I'm looking forward to getting this on my wheel and spinning it. I would really love to finish my big Rambouillet spin and, you know, at least get those singles off the bobbins and plied together, because I have visions of a beautiful textured something out of that yarn. I'm almost done with 2/3 of it, so it's just a matter of finishing that up. And then, yeah, other than that, it's been really busy. Trying to reclaim our yard from the jungle that it's become. It's really hard to keep up with the landscape here during the summertime, just because it's so hot, and my husband and I only have one weekend day off together since we work staggered schedules from each other. So that makes it really tough to get out there and take care of the yard work. And then, like I said, the dog, we've been, you know, he got his neuter surgery the other day, so that's kind of put a blip or whatever in our normal routines. And then work has been busy. We had, as I mentioned, we had the hazardous spill, and then a couple of our buildings are currently being re-roofed, and one of the buildings that's being re-roofed, roofer stepped on some of the flashing on the roof and damaged it, and that caused a water intrusion. And we're in the middle of monsoon season here. Like, it rains every day. It might not rain all day, but you get rain every day, and when it rains, it is like a downpour. So yeah, that was a fun day at work, salvaging in the middle of a thunderstorm. And then also with work, we've had like COVID outbreaks, and I somehow have dodged it and or gotten it and been asymptomatic. But yeah, a couple of my coworkers now have come down with it, as well as several of our volunteers, and so it's just been nutty between Bing Bong and knitting and spinning, and my sister Zoe, who has the Felicity Yarn Studio podcast. Between all of them, I guess, and my husband, I should loop him into that. That is kind of what's kept me grounded and sane lately. So yeah, that's what's going on with our life, our neck of the woods. I kind of went into it at the beginning, so I don't want to jibber jabber on too much longer. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I was rambling on about life saying, Naomi, you want to mention this. I would love to warp my loom again here soon. And hello, sir. So I would love to warp my loom again. I'm just kind of overwhelmed in the decision-making process for that. So if anyone has a link to like a simple pattern, it can just be like playing with stripes and whatever, will you link that down below? Because I'd love to get a warp on there and just keep learning that new process, but I can't really, I'm finding it hard to make a decision about what to create. I'm overwhelmed with choice, and being like a true novice, just making a decision is really hard for me right now. And so yeah, drop me some like easy beginner patterns down below if you're a weaver with more experience than me, which isn't hard to be considering I've woven exactly one project on the loom. But yeah, with that being said, thank you so much for watching, you guys. It's been my pleasure to hang out with you for a little bit, hopefully while you're knitting and or spinning or needle felting or whatever it is you're doing, or just hanging out and subjecting the rest of your family to awesome knitting content. But yeah, it's been fun. Until next time, I hope you guys enjoy whatever you're making. I hope it brings you joy. And if you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to hit that thumbs up, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. I'll talk to you later. Bye. You're just gonna come here at the end with your little comb? You said you can't film an episode without me being in it, didn't you? I know. I know. You okay, buddy? You sleepy? You sleepy, conehead? Yeah, you are. I'll get your ears for you.